الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Now yesterday after Isha, I gave a little khatara. We were talking about the story of the Naml, right? We read Surah Al-Naml yesterday during after Isha, and we started talking about the story of the ant itself, right? Continuation of the story. Now, to save time, I'm not going to get into all the stories. There is a bird which finds a people who are not worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Sulaiman alayhi salam sends them a letter. Now, in the story itself, we're going to see certain examples. Allah has given us examples of leadership. So, Sulaiman alayhi salam sends a letter with the bird. So he takes this letter and he delivers it to the queen that is over there. So it is the land of Sheba, and it is governed by a queen. Now, once the queen receives this letter, she calls her chiefs, the people she takes her advice from. Now, she didn't immediately react to receiving that message. And this is an important thing that we have talked about before, where she did shura. She consulted the people around her. She consulted the people that are part of her council about how to proceed with what she has received. So she called them all there and she said, "O chiefs, indeed a noble letter has been delivered to me." And then in ayah 30 it says, "Innahu min Sulaiman wa innahu Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim." It is from Sulaiman, and it reads, "In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful." Now this is an interesting thing, because this is the only place in the Quran that Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is mentioned inside the surah. So Surah Al-Naml has 2 Bismillahs, and then Surah Tawbah doesn't have any Bismillah. That's an interesting side point though. So she receives the message. That's the first part of the message. It starts off with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And then it continues, "Allah ta'alu alayya wa'tuni muslimin." Do not be arrogant with me, but come to me fully submitting to Allah. So Sulaiman is calling her to Islam. And her people are not Muslim at that point. They worship other than Allah. And as soon as she receives that letter, now she talks to her chiefs after reading it out loud. "O chiefs, advise me in this matter of mine, for I would never make any decision without you." And that is a sign of a great leader, once again, taking advice from the people that are around her. Now, the way they respond is interesting. They respond saying, "We are people of strength and great military might. But the decision is yours, so decide what you will command." They wanted to go to war. They are people who said, "We are very strong and we can go to war against this man known as Sulaiman." But as we talked about after Isha, Sulaiman had an army that is unlike any other army before. He didn't have only humans in his army. He had jinn in his army. He had birds in his army. He had such a great army. But these people are advising, let's go to war. Then she remembers something and she said, "Indeed, when kings invade a land, they ruin it. And they debase its nobles, they really do so." Right? So the ayah says, وَجَعَلُوا أَعِزَّةَ أَهْلِهَا أَذِلَّهَا. Right? They take the noble amongst them and they make them humiliated when a land is conquered. So she wanted to avoid that confrontation. So she decided to test Sulaiman. So what she did is she sent a gift to Sulaiman to see how he's going to respond to this gift. When Sulaiman receives the gift, he immediately said, "Are you offering me wealth? Are you offering me something which is worldly, when Allah has granted me something far greater than what He has granted you? No. It is you who rejoice in receiving gifts. So He's saying that these worldly gifts that you give me are not going to entice me. This is not going to work on me. I have been given something much greater than anything that you can offer me. And this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even though he was given so much, we talked about last time that it made him much more grateful. The more he had, the more grateful he was to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he did not respond the way she expected or the way she wanted. And he decided to march forward, right? So he said, go back to her or go back to them, for we will certainly mobilize against them forces which they can never resist. And we will drive them out of there in disgrace, fully humbled. Now, the queen realizes this, that he's going to come and she does not have any chance of winning. So she says that she's going to go to Sulaiman. So on her way, when she leaves her kingdom and goes towards Sulaiman, Sulaiman asks his people, "O chiefs, which of you can bring me her throne before they come to me in full submission?" Now her throne was known to be very grand and beautiful. And this is a part of the story which I find interesting. So the first thing is a jinn response. قَالَ عِفْرِيتٌ مِّنَ الْجِنِّ. One of the mighty jinn, he responds, he says, "I can bring it to you before you rise from this council of yours. And I am quite strong and trustworthy for this task." So he's going to go, and we know jinn can move really fast. He's going to go, he's going to pick it up, and he's going to bring it. And it's going to take a few hours, because Sulaiman a.s. was known to sit in the council for a few hours. But then right after that, not a jinn, the one who had knowledge of the scripture said, "I can bring it to you in the blink of an eye." And then Sulaiman saw it placed in front of him. So the idea was that in the blink of an eye, a human being was able to bring it right in front of Sulaiman alayhi salam. And this confirms the idea of teleportation. The Quran confirms the idea that an inanimate object can be teleported from one place to another if you have a certain knowledge. And this person had knowledge of the book. Now, which book, we do not know. Right? There's different scholars have different opinions on that, but the idea is that they are able to teleport something from one place to another. And one of the words I want to focus on in the ayah itself, it says, فَلَمَّا رَآهَا مُسْتَقِرًّا عِنْدَهُ. When he saw the throne, مُسْتَقِرًّا, in front of him. Now, most of the translation will just say it's placed in front of him. But the word mustaqarran has a more meaning than just something that is placed. It hints to the idea that it doesn't have the signs of motion. It is very steady and stable in front of him. If something was picked up and moved really fast and then placed in front, it would have some signs that it was just moved really fast. But this is extremely stable, as if it was teleported from one place to another. Right, the story continues on, and eventually she accepts Islam. But there's a lot more lessons that we can learn from these stories, so I always encourage everyone to go back to these stories in the Quran itself and read them and see what you can learn from them based on what is your passion, what is your interest. And there's always so much that you can learn from the Quran. Every time you read it, you will learn something new. You will see something in a different light, and then always follow that up with reading the tafsir and what the scholars have said about it. Jazakumullah khair. Inshallah, may Allah help us understand what we learned and benefit from everything we learn. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.